Hey everyone, I'm Katie Simpson and I'm one of the co-hosts of Two Blocks from the White House. America is getting ready to celebrate a very big birthday. Its 250th anniversary. There's going to be fireworks. There's going to be a UFC match. There are going to be some concerts. But of course, it all comes with controversy in this very polarized moment in America. And we get into that in our conversation today and find out why I might get some hate mail from Vanilla Ice. Have a listen. Paul, Willy, if you were to take a guess, what would you say or who would you say is the number one attraction anywhere in the world? Paul, you go first.
In the world? Well, Canadian, obviously. So I would say either Drake, The Weeknd, or Willy Lowry.
Willy?
Paul, I was going to say you or Katie. But if we're talking about attraction, I was going to maybe say, I don't know, the pyramids of Giza, but that just might be, because of my current location in Jerusalem and my, interest in the Middle East. So I might be a little biased on that one.
Okay, so over the weekend, Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social that he is, quote, the number one attraction anywhere in the world, the man who gets much larger audiences than Elvis in his prime, and he does so without a guitar.
Without a guitar. Yeah, it looks like Trump may now be headlining the Freedom 250 concerts that'll be held here in Washington starting later this month. That's because performer after performer has withdrawn from the concert series.
Yeah, as of today, guys, that's today, Tuesday, Martina McBride, Milli Vanilli, Young MC, Bret Michaels, and a soul funk group called the Commodores have all canceled their appearances. I'm just going to interject here quickly. I don't know who most of those people are, but that might be a me thing. That might be a me thing. Fully aware of that.
What are you, 12 years old?
Yes.
Some of them are citing concerns that this event has been politicized.
Well, performers are bailing on the big party. That's just one thing that's going on here in Washington. In many ways, this 250th anniversary, it's like holding up to a mirror to America, revealing the tensions in politics of the moment and how they're sort of taking over almost all aspects of life here in America. So today we are asking, how do you have a birthday party if no one's in the mood to celebrate? I'm Katie Simpson.
I'm Willy Lowry.
And I'm Paul Hunter. We're CBC's Washington correspondents, 2 blocks from the UFC ring being built behind the White House.
Now, Paul, conservative commentator Scott Jennings told CNN that critics of the 250th plans for America's 250th birthday, people who are critics, they are, quote, fun haters and, quote, fun vacuums who don't love America as much as Donald Trump. Is that what's going on here, Paul? Or why are people so concerned?
Do I get to explain this?
You sure do.
I'm so glad it lands on my desk today. Look, I mean, this is the whole holding a mirror to America thing that you were talking about a second ago, Katie. Because how you feel about it, how Americans feel about all of this, depends which side you're on. Which team you're on, which is the way politics here feels these days. Like 2 things off the top to underline. There's America 250, and that is the congressionally approved national celebrations of the 250th anniversary of the signing of Declaration of Independence. And then there is Freedom 250, and that is this series of concerts that we referenced there, which is led, sort of organized by a group started by Trump, led by a Trump appointee, with some suggestion that if you make donations, you're going to get access to Trump. It's all very, the vibe of Freedom 250 is that it is political. It feels political. It feels associated with Trump. It is not America 250. It is Freedom 250. And as a result, all these performers that Willy is big fans of, they have pulled out.
Big fans.
Because they have said they do not want to be part of something that is political, that the celebration of the 250th anniversary of America is not a political thing. It's an American thing, and they don't want any part of it. you really do have people who are going to oppose this kind of thing and this branding of Trump's name on everything to do with America 250, with the Freedom 250, and there are going to be people who despise Trump and everything he stands for because of that, and there are going to be, an X percentage of the country that just says, yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, 250, it's a big deal.
Yes.
It's a big number. I mean, listen, I remember, I can't believe it's almost 10 years ago now, but Canada 150 celebrations, obviously on a kind of Canadian scale compared to what we're seeing or what we will see play out. But these are all big milestones, and, democracies and the U.S. in particular, these are imperfect unions, but they, at the same time, there is reason to celebrate. As the U.S. will often say, it is the world's oldest democracy. Not the world's first, but the world's oldest.
So in 2017, I went to Ottawa specifically because of the Canada 150.
So patriotic.
Well, thank you. I felt patriotic though because it is Canada 150 was
because
a big deal.
They
America
matters.
250 is a big deal. It is a big deal, and it ought to be celebratory, right? And the expectation is that it be celebratory and that politics not be a part of it. But you know what happened at Canada 150? Why did my voice go up and half an octave there? I'm not sure.
You're heated, Paul. You're
I'm
heated
now because it was Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister at the time, and on stage on Parliament Hill walks Bono. And spoiler alert, it got political. Mm-hmm. Bono starts going on about how this, and Trump 1.0, we were 6 months in at the time. It was summer of 2017. And Bono gets out on stage.
When others build walls, you open doors. When others divide, your arms are open wide. Where you lead, others follow.
And by the way, he made his point in English and in French. So again, it depends which side of the ideological divide you're on. People agreed with Bono there, and they cheered. It's like, yes, right, yes, we don't build walls, we open doors. So everything was okay to sort of bring politics into the celebration that was Canada 150. But here, for the many millions of Americans who can't stand Trump, right? Now he's politicizing it, and that's wrong, and it should be more celebratory. So again, it's all about, in my view, I'm not defending Trump. I'm just saying that it depends on the perspective of the people who are considering this. And the bottom line here, though, is that all these performers do not want to be a part of something they deem political at this time.
Now, one performer who doesn't think this is political, it is Vanilla Ice. People may remember him from the 90s, from Ice Ice Baby, Willie. I don't know if you were born in the 90s, but...
How can you not
really,
be thinking?
really glad you said that.
I
was born, Katie, and of course I remember Vanilla
Don't get
Ice.
Willie going.
I know.
Katie, continue.
So he did this interview on CNN defending his decision to stay.
I'm Ice Ice Baby. I'm Go Ninja Go. How can you take this serious? This has got to be fun. We're just going back to the fanny packs and the crazy neon colors and having fun and enjoying our country that I was born in. I want to celebrate the birthday of my country, and I'm honored to be here and do this. And I think it's a great event. And I think people to put the musicians on a spotlight like they are is not fair to us as musicians on both sides.
So in this interview, he revealed he does not vote. He does not see, essentially he makes the argument he does not see a role for politics, at least in his music. Other people maybe, but himself, no. And he made the argument that we need to go back to the mentality of the 90s. And it's that right now the way that social media and computers are making life too stressful for young people and politics. But, I heard him talk like that, and it was just sort of it struck me as spoken like someone who's never had to fight to advance rights for themselves or fight to push back against the rollback of rights. Because who doesn't need to get political? people who have their rights and freedoms guaranteed. And, it sort of reminded me of the Mark Carney speech in Davos where he said nostalgia's not a strategy. So whether Vanilla Ice likes it or not, the world is political, America is political, and it's deeply divided. And I don't know if Ice Ice Baby is the anthem to bring everyone back together. Or maybe it is. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I'm just too cynical and we can all get behind Ice Ice Baby. Or maybe Under Pressure by David Bowie and Queen, where he may or may not have borrowed some of that.
Early sampling.
Yeah, exactly. So, Willy, as we're having this conversation about the big celebrations that are expected in Washington, you are joining us from Jerusalem today. And you've got this perspective on the country right now from the outside. What do you think about how the rest of the world is looking at America heading into its 250th birthday?
Yeah, I don't think they're paying a whole lot of attention to this 250th birthday celebration. What they are paying attention to is American foreign policy. And right now, what does the U.S. have to show for it? This supposed president of peace has started a war with Iran that he seems thus far incapable of ending. His early foreign policy achievements, mostly that ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, is incredibly, I would say, under duress. We've seen since I've been here multiple Israeli strikes on Gaza. So, not a whole lot of foreign policy achievements, wins for this administration right now from a kind of outsider's perspective.
This has been said before by people other than me, but it's almost as if the FIFA Peace Prize means nothing.
If I could just throw one more comment from the outside looking in to go north of here. You mentioned Carney a few minutes ago. I'm old enough to remember 1976 and the bicentennial and the celebratoriness of that. And in June of almost exactly 50 years ago, Pierre Trudeau came to Washington to give Canada's gift to America, celebrating the bicentennial, which was a photo book called Between Friends, Entre Amis. It's celebrating the border and the longest, undefended border in the world and all that stuff that we used to applaud. And here we are 50 years later, and I suspect Mark Carney is not coming down with a picture book celebrating the relationship between the two countries right now. It's a very different time, and the celebratoriness that I think Canada felt in 1976 and at other times, post 9/11, for example, it's a different time now.
On Monday night, Donald Trump reposted an article about Canada going into a technical recession, and he wrote on the caption, 51st state. So that's where,
I haven't heard that in a while.
Again, it's not gone away.
Katie, a few weeks ago, we were talking about how Washington, D.C. as a city has changed in Trump's second term, and now we've got the 250th that we've been talking about. When you walk around Washington, what do you see that's different in the lead up to the big day coming up July 4th?
So this is such an Ontario reference, but anytime you sort of walk near the White House, where there has been massive construction underway, there is this huge sort of structure that reminds me of Canada's Wonderland. If you've ever driven by Canada's Wonderland north of Toronto, this big amusement park, there you see these sort of like huge structures that are roller coaster tracks, obviously. And when you go near the White House, there's this huge structure that's being built to host a UFC fight on Donald Trump's birthday on the south lawn of the White House. And when you sort of see it, it sort of looks like this big hulking sort of structure, this cylinder that looks like an amusement park roller coaster track. Or that's at least what it looks to me. Every time I pass by it, I think I'm getting some Canada's Wonderland vibes.
I just want to throw in one thing just on the way Washington looks, just because we were talking about a couple of weeks ago from the Department of Win Some, Lose Some. The Trump name is coming off the Kennedy Center. I don't know if they're actually physically pulling it off right now, but that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago has now been I guess, reversed.
Willie, the 4th of July is so intertwined with American military patriotism, yet, 3 months into this war, the U.S. and Israel's attacks on Iran, public opinion show that support for this war, it's not very strong among the public. Could that, do you think, have any sort of impact on the celebrations? And what is this sort of conflict in this moment, this war revealing about the U.S. in this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it could have one of two effects. If Trump manages to secure a deal before, the celebrations begin, that could really kind of inject another air of even more celebratory kind of nature in it, give him kind of wind at his sails. But if he doesn't, it could lead to perhaps a more muted celebration. And I think there is a bit of symmetry with the fact that this is a nation born out of war, and 250 years later, it remains at war, obviously a different war. But, it is undeniable that this country has a pugilistic history. Whether those wars often, in the name of freedom or not, it has a long military track record.
I would just note that back to 1976 in the bicentennial, the Vietnam War had just ended. Nixon had just, relatively speaking, just left office, which I think contributed then to, there was a rebirth or a restart, I guess, to American politics at that time, or at least a transition time. And that may well have contributed to the sort of celebratory nature of 1976. So again, to your point, Willie, if Trump can somehow get to the end line with the Iran war, that may well change the vibe July 4th, 2026.
But one thing I want to say, though, I wonder if Americans can afford to come to D.C. Like, if you're driving from out of town and gas prices are still close to $5 a gallon in this area, if you're thinking about that road trip and it's just far more expensive, if you're thinking about flying here, airline tickets are so expensive. And in this moment where gas prices are incredibly high, where plane tickets are incredibly high, where the headlining musical acts are not like, man, I can't wait to go see Simon and Garfunkel in Central Park, or I can't wait to go see Lady Gaga on the steps of the Capitol, or name me a band that people would travel for. That's not these headline. I don't think America is uniting behind Vanilla Ice. I don't know why I have such a hate for Vanilla Ice. I don't know.
Just relax.
I am gonna get hate mail from the Vanilla Ice fan club, and I honestly that's okay. That's okay.
And yet you love the UFC fight. You have front row tickets? Is that what's going on?
I have accreditation to go to the UFC fight, so I got my credentials approved. So essentially, on Trump's birthday, which is in the lead up to the 4th of July, it's June 14th. I believe it's a Sunday. It's June 14th. And it is going to be this massive spectacle on the South Lawn. This one is controversial, but for different reasons. The UFC is picking up the tab on this. This is not a taxpayer-funded thing. At least that's what we understand at this point. That's what the UFC has said on the record. They're expecting just over 4,000 people on the South Lawn for this massive fight in an octagon. And that big thing that looks like a roller coaster track that I talked about, it's this massive lighting. It's a lighting grid. Yeah,
you can see it from the other side of the White House. It's so big. Yeah.
Yes, and so it's this massive thing, and it's a really high tech lighting grid, so that when this goes on that Sunday, rain or shine, they can do it. The only thing that will prevent it from happening is lightning, and they might have to move the show up by 2 hours, or they might delay it by 2 hours. But anyway, this thing is a go, and of course, this is a nod to the politics that helped get Donald Trump elected.
Very MAGA.
Very MAGA.
Yeah.
He went into those fights. He went into those stadiums, those arenas. Those are his voters. He would get massive cheers, and it was a source of sort of contention for Democrats, because during the 2024 campaign, before Joe Biden had his disastrous debate, there was talk about, should Democrats go into these spaces to try to reach to these people who are these voters, and everyone was afraid of these moments being broadcast live of like a person like Joe Biden going in and getting booed, or some other prominent Democrat going into a venue like that and being booed. But Donald Trump is embraced, and so this is a nod to that voter group, to Donald Trump supporters, and to this this event that he likes, this deeply popular, massively American event. But it is controversial in a number of ways, one of which is that members of the military are being invited to attend. So I believe there's like 4,300 people who are allowed to go. But members of the military have to pay their own way, and they have to meet certain height and physical, the visual check. They got to look good. You know how Donald Trump likes to talk about handsome men and how he likes to be around all of these handsome guys and military guys and that kind of thing.
And Pete Hegseth.
There you go. And so you got to look the part. You got to be central casting. And so that's there's been some reporting around that. And that, of course, is controversial. But some people don't like UFC fighting because it's so violent. But a lot of Americans do. It is a very popular, very wealthy sport. So people are into it. And so I work on Sundays. So that is my shift to cover. So I'm going to see some super interesting things. So at this point in our wonderful conversation, gentlemen, do you think it is, a possibility to celebrate 250 years of America's independence in this moment? And are people going to feel like celebrating? Paul, you go first.
I think the bottom line here is there will be a sour taste in the mouths of a lot of Americans in a year and a date in which theoretically all of this should have been able to have been put aside. I think it's a reminder that politics has become very messy in this country, and it's a reminder that elections matter and votings matter. But the bottom line is I think it's going to be an unusual July 4th.
Willie?
Yeah, I have to agree with what Paul said. I think, as I said earlier, 250 is a big number, but the divisiveness of the current political landscape and, quite frankly, of the president who resides in the Oval Office makes this a kind of very strange vibe, a strange July 4th and a strange birthday, I think.
A strange semi-quincentennial.
Nothing in this moment, I think, should surprise anyone. I think that this is holding a mirror up to America, and this is the state of this moment. You have part of the population that fears for the future or the current state of democracy in America. And then you have people that absolutely love it and think that for the first time in a long time that the country's headed in the right track. There are
exactly.
And of course we're having this moment where people can't figure out whether they want to celebrate or want to protest or whatever it is. This is a mirror moment for America, and I think it's absolutely reflective and expected and an appropriate example of what is happening in this country right now.
Of this country at this moment.
Yeah.
I agree.
So we will, from our bureau here, 2 blocks from the White House, we of course will be keeping an eye on the 250th plans as the 4th of July approaches. And before we sign off today, we have a nice question from Justin Margolis, who says he used to live in Washington and he misses all the free museums. So in D.C., the Smithsonian museums, there's quite a few of them. I believe it's 17 of them, and they're free to the public because in America they want to educate kids and get families to come to D.C. and make sure that they know the story of America. We can talk about that. There's a bit of controversy around that in this moment. But Justin says his favorite museum is the National Portrait Gallery, and he asks us, which Smithsonian museum is your favorite? Willie, you go first.
Oh, me first. So I am the son and brother of 2 art historians. I'm not much of a museum goer, though. So I'm going to go with the zoo. The Smithsonian Zoo. I love the zoo.
I went and saw the baby elephant, by the way.
It is free, and it's a great time. We go with the kids. They love it.
It's a big hill.
Yeah, it's
Funny,
an
you don't think of that as a
amazing
Smithsonian.
attraction, right? And right in the city.
Mm-hmm. Paul, what do you say?
I love the portrait gallery as well. I love the President's Wing. I love the Clinton portrait by Chuck Close. I love Norman Rockwell's Nixon. The look on Nixon's face in his portrait is from 1968. And Nixon's just saying, I'm finally president. Like, who knows what's to come at that point. But I love the portrait gallery. I love the architecture of the National Museum of the American Indian, designed by Canada's Douglas Cardinal. Pro tip, best food on the National Mall is in the cafeteria at that museum, which echoes the Canadian Museum of History in Gatineau, which was also designed by Cardinal. But here's the thing. A non-Smithsonian just north of the city in a place called Sandy Spring has the Slave Museum. And it is like the African American Museum, only smaller and more intimate, and they have like leg shackles that you can touch.
Oh, wow.
A KKK outfit. I spoke to the curator who said, I said, why isn't it all behind plexiglass? She said, because we want people to touch it, to feel the evil, dark provenance of these things. But the best part of it is the last room has these photos of all these people. And I saw it said Hamilton, Ontario. And I said, what's going on there? And it's 'cause the museum is on the path of the Underground Railroad. And they have these events every couple of years where all the descendants of those who migrated up to Canada come down to Maryland and vice versa. And so there's this crowd of people from Hamilton that had made their way through where this museum stands. It's amazing. I've always wanted to do a story on that. Oh, it's fantastic. And it's, to go back to the theme of the day, it's very counterintuitively perhaps, but very celebratory room at the end of this sobering place. The Slave Museum just north of D.C.
Wow. Okay, so I wish I'd gone first because I don't really have anything to say after that. I was going to give some snarky answer about how, like, I don't really like to go to the museums because but I'll give one. A great place to take family and friends to. By the way, I took my parents to the zoo, Willie, when they came to visit. We went and saw the baby elephant, went and saw the pandas. It was great.
It's great.
It's great. Is Ford's Theater. It's just down. It's maybe 4 blocks from the White House. It's 2 blocks from 2 blocks. It is. So you go into the museum and it's sort of small and it sort of tells the history of Washington D.C. during the time of Lincoln and what was going on in the Civil War and the building of Washington, all that kind of thing. And then you go into the actual theater where Lincoln was shot, and you go and you sit there. There have been some renovations, but the booth itself where he was sitting is still largely sort of intact. And someone from the Parks Department sits up on the stage, and they don't reenact it. They're very specific about it. They don't reenact it, but they talk about what happened that night. And sort of you have the opportunity to go see the booth or the area up close, and it is absolutely fascinating. And then you can go across the street up to what was a rooming house at the time where Lincoln died, and it's super interesting to realize that it's not even that many years ago that incredible thing happened. Paul, like I just feel like your very serious and deep answer, like forced me to be authentic. How dare you?
Well,
Paul?
I feel like I underperformed with the zoo here, guys.
Thanks to Justin for sending us that question. Who knew the conversation that would ensue from it? That was a good one, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. If you have something you'd like to ask us or feedback about what you're hearing, you can send an email to WashingtonPod, that's all one word, at CBC.ca. That is WashingtonPod at CBC.ca. If you are a Vanilla Ice or a Vanilla Ice fan, you can just send it directly to me at Katie.Simpson at CBC.ca, or you can leave us a comment on Spotify.
And if you like what you're hearing, spread the word, tell a friend about us, and follow us on your favorite podcasting app so you never miss an episode.
Okay. Thank you, you two. Willie, please stay safe.
See you too. Hey,
Thanks,
sorry about the
guys.
Habs, Willie. Sorry about the Habs.
Yes. Thanks for reminding me, Paul.
See you next time.